Each way of organizing begins to center something. And what becomes centered quietly begins to shape everything else that gathers around it. And as we can name more of what's gathering around it, this is when other connective thoughts begin to emerge. Welcome to Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Miss Jana, educator, system weaver, and your fellow traveler in how humans make sense of the world. This isn't a podcast. This is a nervous system attunement lab. In Season 2, The Bridge begins where the sanctuary leaves off. Not with more noticing, but with what do we do with what we've noticed? Here we explore how experience is shaped by the environments we've lived in, by the relationships we've been a part of, and by the stories we've learned to carry. If you've ever felt responsible for more than your share, or sensed that there's a larger story underneath what you're living, welcome to The Bridge. This is Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Miss Jana, and you are listening to Season 2, Arc 2, The Bridge, Honest Discernment. Discernment meaning the practice of seeing clearly before judging what it means or before making meaning about it. This is the first quarter moon, a time where something begins to take shape. The question is no longer only what are we seeing, but what happens when what we see asks something of us? Sometimes we find ourselves standing between two waves of moving forward. Both carry something valuable. Both create something different. And quietly, the question begins to form, which way is the right way? Sometimes we find ourselves wanting something that we desperately long for. Connection without conflict, clarity without limitations, and movement without loss. And often, that's where the search begins. Thinking back to when my children were little, I remember getting ready for a family vacation, a full week away. Everyone was excited. There were lists to make and bags to pack and all the things that come with getting a family ready to leave home for a long trip. At one point, I asked each of my children to go pack a bag with the things that they would need for the week. It seemed like a simple enough request. I went back to packing my own things and doing what I was doing. When I went to go check on their progress, oh, was I ever surprised. I looked inside their bags and I couldn't help but smile. Instead of toothbrushes, they're stuffed animals. And instead of extra clothes, there happens to be action figures. And instead of the things that I imagined that they would need, such as bathing suits, we find that there's Nerf guns and Legos. These were the things that they couldn't imagine leaving behind. These were the things that to them they needed for an enjoyable week. For a moment, I just stood there looking from one bag to the next, and then it hit me. Something came into view. We just were preparing for a different type of week. That memory stayed with me because I think many of us know what it's like to be preparing something and then simply realize, wait a minute, we might all be preparing for different things here. Their bags were filled with the things they couldn't imagine spending a week without. Mine would have held the things that I would think would keep us clean and clothed and smelling good. But this is the thing about that invitation. The invitation makes perfect sense because what was happening is we both had the directions. We were just organized around different outcomes. Over the next several days, I found myself continuing to sit with this. And I began to wonder more about how one simple request could lead into two complete different directions. something about that moment has shown me something new. The request stayed the same. Prepare for the week. Pack the bag for the week. Nothing about those words changed. What changed was understanding that each of us was preparing for something different. I was organized around the things we needed to care for ourselves. They were organized around the things that would help them enjoy the week. Neither of us was preparing incorrectly. We just didn't have an agreement about what we were preparing for together. The way we organize around something begins to shape what follows. And once I noticed that, I began recognizing it in places I hadn't seen before. A team gathers to plan for a meeting. One person is thinking about staying on schedule. The other person is thinking about making sure everyone has an opportunity to feel heard. The meaning is the same, but each person is preparing for it from a different perspective. Here's another one. A family sits down for dinner. Mom is hoping that everyone will have a lovely time eating together. And Dad is hoping that everyone will have an opportunity to share a story about their day. The meal is the same, but each person is hoping that it unfolds in a different way. Let's anchor this with one more scenario. Two friends make plans to hang out for a weekend. One is looking for adventure. The other is looking for rest. They're planning the same trip. They're planning it at the same time. But they're both going to be preparing for it differently. The more I lived with these ordinary moments, the more I realized they weren't isolated moments at all. They were revealing something much larger. We organize our homes, the way we spend our time, the way we solve problems, the way we welcome people, the way we make decisions, the way we celebrate, the way we handle conflict, the way we care for one another. Each way of organizing begins to center something. And what becomes centered quietly begins to shape everything else that gathers around it. And as we can name more of what's gathering around it, this is when other connective thoughts begin to emerge. Now I spend less time wondering which way is right, the person who wants rest or the person who wants adventure. And I spend more time wondering, have we accurately communicated what we're organizing around? Because what we organize around shapes what follows. The organizing principle comes first. What gets produced follows. The question slowly begins to change from which way is the right way to what outcome is actually producing this. As we head into the full moon, our journey will continue to unfold as we discuss what's happening between us when we participate in creation together. What is coming into view doesn't need to be followed, only noticed. The loom holds gently.